My friend, Alistair McDermott. Alistair, we've worked together for a number of months now. I love what you do. And we're going to talk about a topic I think is on the minds of a lot of content creators today. Alistair, what I would say is, people are very good at what they do, right? And maybe sometimes they feel like their own best kept secret. Maybe they're really struggling. I'll tell you what, we did. We you'll appreciate this. We invested close to 20K on a lot of market research. And even though it's a little bit unrelated to what we do, one of the biggest challenges that we found among our clients, or kind of our population that we work with, and again, we typically work with consultants, coaches, B2B service providers, and agency owners that are doing six figures and beyond. One of the biggest confusions, even in that population, is just not knowing what to do today with social media. That there's a lot of frustration that either it's not working, or they just don't want to create noise, or it's just getting lost. They're not connecting. They're not getting engagement. It feels really inefficient. It's not really working. It's certainly not driving conversations, connections, and business. And so, Alistair, we're going to get into all that stuff. Alistair, thank you so much for doing this. So we're going to have probably about a 30-minute conversation here. To our friend that stumbled upon this, lock and load. Because I'm going to tell you right now, what we're about to talk about is there's a lot of very, very recent insights just based on available tools when we're thinking about how we create micro content, what content is working very well, how we leverage social media, how we connect and grow audiences. And so again, Alistair, sorry, I've been obliviating here. Alistair, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. It's weird for me. I'm saying welcome. I'm so used to being the host, but it's a pleasure to chat with you here, Josh. We've got a ton of different things that we could talk about. So I'm going to let you drive for once.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's start off by maybe just have you just give just a quick intro to who you are and what you do. We'll go from there.
Okay, sure. So I'm a content marketing specialist, I guess. Content marketing strategist is one way I introduce myself. I have a podcast called The Recognized Authority, which has over 100 episodes. I think 125, 130 we're at. I've got two other podcasts myself, and then I host a podcast for publishing for a series of books as well. So I'm an experienced veteran podcaster. I'm also an author, and I have been running my own business in kind of consulting and web design agency type model for about 17 years now. So I've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt when it comes to content creation. But recently, in the last kind of 3 or 4 years, I've really doubled down on content creation, particularly around podcasting. And so I'm a big believer in content, in creating content which you put out into the world, which builds this kind of body of work that people can stumble across in all of the different places that people can find your content, and then come into your world. They're kind of attracted to you like it's gravity, and then they reach out to you and you're top of mind for what you do, and you're seen as an expert. And that's why I call my business The Recognized Authority. You want to be seen as the recognized authority in your field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I love this. So what we're going to talk about in this session here is we're going to talk about how to effortlessly create infinite pieces of content using the greatest, latest tools, but doing so in a way that's not going to feel cheap and AI created, right? Where it just feels generic. It doesn't really connect with audiences. But again, kind of how to leverage those tools. And then, Alistair, of course, this is what you do professionally. The work that you do with your clients is quite masterful. And I love how you engage because you're able to engage with business owners at multiple levels, both as what I would say, I don't know, how would you describe your role? As I look at you as kind of like a kind of a fractional content director, in addition to kind of being able to assume more and more of those roles with you and your team. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, I like to be the arm around the shoulder for people who are finding it tough to create content, and kind of directing people in the right way, because it's very easy to create a whole wealth of content that is totally ineffective. And that's the real issue that we're trying to fight against, because you can create high quality content that doesn't do the job that you need, and that's really frustrating when you spend a lot of time and effort putting it into the quality. So it needs to be effective, and you also need to create it in an efficient way. I think that's really important as well. And then there's all of this AI. I don't know how else to say it, but crap, this AI generated rubbish that people are posting. And that sea of mediocrity and AI content is what we're fighting against. We got to try and create content that kind of rises above that. And so I think that there are certain ways that you can do that, and we can get into the details of that.
Yeah.
But I think that's really what it's about. Is about how can you actually stand out against all of that when there's people who are using, ChatGPT, please write me a LinkedIn post about X, and that kind of rubbish, So, like, how can you stand out? That's what it's all about.
Alistair, what you're saying, I want to kind of point this out to someone who might be thinking, wait a minute, AI is, this amazing gift, and it's making all of our wildest dreams come true. How would you answer that, or what do you see as a potential risk if you have marketers who ruin everything? And I say that lovingly, it's like, I just think of like all of the things in my life as as kind of a relationship oriented, thoughtful, like I love to do what I do. I love to connect. I love to create great outcomes for our clients. I love to work very, very, I love to co-create awesome stuff. And so, but yet historically, like every other agency owner, consultant, or service provider, you have to make those connections, right? And so if we think about all the different ways that we make those connections, there have been a lot of things that have worked historically, Alistair, that no longer work very well today. And I feel like that's kind of, we're at an inflection point with AI-driven content right now, where I think that there's some big risks.
Yeah. So, I love AI. I think it is fantastic what we can do with it. I'm certainly not on the anti-AI bandwagon. I think that AI can make us exponentially more productive in our work, and I think that's what's amazing. But
and you're not competing. We're not talking about you. So to our friend that's watching this right now, we're not talking about you versus AI. What we're talking about is you versus a sea of other people or marketers that are going to use these tools, which are amazing, amazing tools, and they may use them in ways that are going to crowd out those of us who are very thoughtful and good at what we do. A really good book on this. I apologize, Alistair. I feel like I stepped on you for just a second. But a really good book on this, Mark Schaefer. It's called Marketing Rebellion. And he pinpoints, again, kind of this cycle of what marketers do time and time and time again. They find something really good, and then they abuse it, and then they ruin it for everyone. They decimate the field. So we think about things like LinkedIn Sales Navigator, connecting with people cold via email and DMs. A lot of those things are kind of ruined now. They're just not effective platforms for lead gen today, just because they've been so abused by amateurs and, just kind of creepers, really. I'm sorry, Alistair, back to you.
Well, Mark Schaefer is one of the few people who I've interviewed twice on my podcast now, actually.
Wow,
and
yeah, I'm a fan.
I spoke to him a lot about AI last time he was on. And one of the things, like he had a great analogy. He said, ChatGPT and these kind of tools, they're a bit like a calculator. It'd be insane not to use them, but we can't expect them to generate and create all this amazing stuff for us. Like, it needs somebody pressing the buttons. There needs to be a human there right now. Now, maybe later, like AI as it is today is the worst it's ever going to be. It's only going to get better.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's the same. And that's the same tomorrow. And that's the same the next day. So they will improve. But there are certain things that AI can't do and are probably not going to be able to do, in my opinion. I think it's going to be very difficult for AI to make a human connection with another human. And that's where I think things like video, like the two of us are on video, and both of us are very bought into video. We discussed this a little bit beforehand. We both believe in the power of video, but that is what's going to make a human connection with somebody who's watching this or listening to this. They're going to see us. They're going to hear our voices. AI just can't do that right now, and I think that it's going to be a long time. And I'm talking about decades. where it's going to be actually able to fake a human on the fly. You might be able to create something, pre-produce something beforehand, but on the fly, I don't think it's going to be able to do that. So I think that using tools like video and audio right now to develop your own platform and build your platform is really important. And this is something else Mark was talking to me about. Like you just held up one of his latest books. The reason why people will buy his books in the future is because they know they're from Mark. They know they're written by Mark Schaefer. They know that it's a human being has written that, and that it's him and his point of view. And so he has built that platform, and that's why we're discussing him now. I don't think that an AI is going to get to that stage anytime in the near future.
Yeah, and even if it does, as a business owner, you don't want to wait. You don't want to wait 5 years to build your business. You got to use the best available resources and tools and expertise and advice based on what's working today. And so that's what we're going to talk about. But, before we continue, Alistair, to our friend that's watching, do me a favor. Comment below. I may or may not see it on the live stream just based on the platform that I'm using. But if you comment below, just say, hey, Josh, hi, Josh. Thumbs up, post an emoji or something like that in the comments, just to let me know that you were here, and I will take that as a, hey, thanks for doing this. I appreciate that's all you gotta do. You don't even have to ask like a long-winded conversation or a question or anything like that, but just some sort of engagement that lets me know that you are here really makes a huge difference, just to make sure that that this is in any way valuable for you. And as always, it's always fun to see, oh, yeah, I know that person. And so if you ask a question or post something, we'll put it on the screen, or I think in some of the platforms, I'll actually see it in our platform, and I can ask Alistair, we can kind of talk about that. Okay, so who you have here today, my background is in media consulting and training. I teach these sorts of skills like performance, that sort of thing. As well, what we want to do is we want to make sure, like, we don't want Alistair to spend all of this time and, it being like a tree that falls in the woods and nobody hears it. And unfortunately, kind of the feedback that we found in our market research was that was happening far too often, is that, leaders would make all these investments in content, or they would spend all of this time creating content. You're like, all of that for what? I had like 37 people watch it. What's the point? It's so frustrating. All right, Alistair, take us away. What are we to do today?
Well, I think that you shouldn't swim against the tide when it comes to social media. The social media platforms have a lot of power with their algorithms, and if we're swimming against the current, it's pointless. We're not going to make any progress. So take what they want us to create and go make more of that. And right now, that is short video clips. And that might change in the future. But we know for sure that short video clips and carousel style posts are huge on all of the social media platforms, from the Instagram, TikTok war, where both of those platforms, or to YouTube, who are investing heavily in the shorts platform, and even on LinkedIn. There's a huge amount of people watching video on LinkedIn, and shock horror, most of them are actually watching it in vertical format on their phone. So sorry, I know a lot of people are like, no, I want my video to be horizontal. I know you do. I prefer horizontal videos too, but this is what the users are telling us they want. So it's don't swim against the current. It's go with the flow. And so if the social media platforms are going to promote short social media video more than other types of content, I think you should create more of it. And, that's the end of the show, Josh. That's basically it.
Want to give a shout out to my good friend, Craig Andrews. Really, really smart guy. Thanks for the comment, Craig. Great stuff on LinkedIn. Thanks so much for commenting. So no, it's absolutely true. And you know what, I don't know if it's just the type of like Facebook account that I have right now as a content creator. But every single time that I make a post, if it's visual in any way, Facebook always prompts me to turn it into a reel. And I do sometimes. Can you talk about that just a little bit about so social media platforms are really pushing short form video. Can you share maybe a little bit more about that? Why that's the case?
It's fairly simple. It's as human beings. So first of all, the short form videos that you're seeing typically have human faces on them. So you'll see that most of the videos have a human being, and this maybe is where the vertical clips are more suited than horizontal, because you get to see more of the person. But that's the way our brain is primed, is to we stop the scroll when we see a face, and so they get more engagement. And so what they're seeing in their statistics and their analytics that people are spending more time watching video content than watching the other types of content and spending time. And that's why they're doing this, because people are watching these videos far more and spending time, and the way that we can use this is we can use that to build a connection with the people who are watching, and we can become known by them. And that's what we're trying to do here, is create content that makes a human connection with people and starts to build a parasocial relationship, which is this kind of one-sided relationship where the person feels like they know you, and hopefully in time that will develop into a two-way relationship. But at the start, it's a parasocial relationship. And then as they start to see more and more of our content, they start to plant a flag in their head for you, that you are the person who does X. And that's part of the kind of the strategy, is to make sure that you're being connected with the right thing in their head, so that when they're looking for somebody, or they get interested enough, they'll click through to your profile.
All right. So what is, Alistair, the best way that we can kind of what's the strategy here that in terms of best practice for what a really, and again, I want to advocate for the exceptionally overworked, burnt out, or not burnt out, but like they don't want to add here's what they don't want to do, Alistair: 5 hours of TikTok dances. I can tell you that. So that was, again, part of the research that we found is, just like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I am the main character kind of nonsense. I love delivering value, but I don't want to feel like I'm being salesy or smarmy or whatever. Like, I just want to do good stuff that's going to be valuable for my audience. And I hope that turns into meaningful conversations. So how do we begin that process? Like, how can we develop workflows? And again, we'll certainly, and feel free to kind of talk about how where you come in with leaders as well with this too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, for me, because I've been podcasting for so long and I've done so many, I looked at podcasting as the ideal. Now, not everybody wants to start a podcast, but there are a lot of times where you're on video. For example, we're both on video right now, and we can take this video and we can chunk this up. If one of us is speaking about something where we're making a salient point that's important and valuable to the audience, and we then go back later and cut that out, we can actually turn that into a clip. And so the extension of that is me just doing that deliberately. And that's what I'm doing with the Authority Accelerator program, is I'm saying, okay, I'm going to go and deliberately interview people in such a way as to create those clips, and make sure that they're on point, that they're part of their content strategy, talking about the things that are important for them and for their audience. And let's go and make those clips deliberately. So and using some of the technologies that we talked about, to help the process and smooth it over.
Yeah. Okay. So again, just kind of sum up here's, and I absolutely agree. I'd say for that type of persona, the busy business owner that doesn't want to add a bunch of content, because it's stressful. Number one is coming up with the ideas. And so, do you want to talk, let's talk about that blinking cursor and how we can overcome that. How do we know what we should be creating, or what should we be teaching, or, that can be multi or repurposed into that, infinite numbers of pieces of content?
Yeah, well, I think that goes back to the basics of actually having a content strategy in the first place.
Yeah.
And that's something that I work a lot with people on, because if you don't have a content strategy in the first place, then you're just going to be talking about whatever comes off the top of your head. And that's not the right way that won't result in kind of a good use of your time. So have a strategy in place where the content that you're creating is actually on point for your business goals and for your kind of your overall goals, and then having something to say about that. So that's having a point of view, and this is important as well. And I'm a software engineer by trade back in the day, 20 years ago, and so I was looking at this point of view thing and saying, look, there's got to be a structured way that we can create or develop or document our point of view so that we can then use it. So if any of your viewers know Alan Weiss, if you read a piece of text from Alan Weiss, he's written nearly 100 books at this point. He has a very distinct point of view in his writing. And so you can recognize it, or I can certainly recognize it, and a lot of people would recognize it just by reading, a couple of paragraphs of text. Oh, that's Alan Weiss that wrote that. So that's like a really boiled down point of view, but everybody has a point of view, and it's just about uncovering that, and so that, I think it's really important. So you've got your content strategy, the topics that you're going to be talking about, your content pillars, and you've got a strategy around how you're going to talk about those, and then it's about actually creating the content. And again, I can't think of a better way than to have somebody interview you, and that's why I boil that into the program.
It's the easiest way, in my opinion, is if you can set up that process where you have someone that knows what they're doing, right? Because can you talk a little bit more about that interview process, right? And so again, what we're talking about is if you've got great domain expertise, a few things, you've got some decent authority, like chances are you have volumes of books that you could potentially teach on a variety of different topics already in your head. It's already up here, right? And so what we need to do is extract that out of your brain and into this content. And so, and again, how you do that, it can make a huge difference. If you have someone that knows what your strategy is, knows what questions to ask you, then this is easy, Alistair.
Oh, yeah.
All you have to do is just show up and just answer the darn questions. You're the talent. The spotlight's on you. You just sit in the chair, answer the questions. You're done. All right, Josh out. And then, again, with the great tools and systems and processes and teams that you could put together. And I mean, you have no excuse today. The tools are so good that it's never been easier. And in fact, I don't mind. Let's talk about, let's take a little detour here. Let's kind of pull into the rest stop here along the highway, because I think it's a perfect time to just kind of introduce very specifically how you work with leaders. Just again, to our friend that's watching, I think you might find this valuable, because what I can tell you is that historically there have been repurposing agencies that will do this work for you, or certainly tools in the past. And Alistair, we were spending many thousands of dollars monthly to create this content because of today's tools. The quality that you can create now. And I'm just going to let me put some links on the screen here, because I want to share what you do, because I think this is going to stimulate some ideas maybe about potentially engaging or working with you. What we have here, there's a link that I've put on the screen. You've seen it in the ticker. It's upmyinfluence.com/authority. You'll see that. And I'm not going to put it in the post, but I'll put it in the comments later. But if you just go to that link, upmyinfluence.com/authority, you're going to see what I've put on the screen right here. Alistair, do you want to maybe just kind of go through this, and I'll kind of scroll through and talk about how you work with leaders? And I know you've kind of created a little bit of this for us as well. But how do you work with folks?
Yeah, so I'll give the example. Like when I did the initial pilot with you, Josh, what I did was I got on a 21-minute interview with you. I know it was 21 minutes because that's what the video was afterwards. So I interviewed you on Zoom. And we had 21 minutes of footage at the end of that. And the questions that I asked you are very strategic. We did no pre-planning. We just got in the call and I interviewed you for 21 minutes. At the end of that, we had 10 clips that we created. So we created 10 short video clips of up to 59 seconds each. And we keep it just under that minute mark, just to because that gives us the maximum kind of optimal usage for all of the different social media channels. And so what we resulted in was we have 10 clips, and then we also wrote 10 pieces of text as social posts to go along with that. And so you have 10 days worth or 2 weeks worth of social media videos with text to go along with that just on the basis of showing up for 21 minutes. And that's effectively the whole thing in a nutshell, is having somebody who has the right questions to get the right answers from you. And I think that's the key thing. Like every expert that I've ever talked to has more than enough expertise to answer the questions that I'm asking. And what we're doing is we're creating content that then resonates with people, that is demonstrating and positioning you, and demonstrating your point of view and making a human connection. And that's what it's about. So there's lots of people who are spending huge amounts of time, and
Yeah.
you can be like Gary V, and you can have videographer full time following you around and videoing every single thing you do, but most of us can't do that. Most of us don't have a lot of time. So if you can show up for 20-30 minutes and then have your month's worth of social media done, that's an ideal scenario for me. And
Yeah.
so that's what it's about.
I want to let's just kind of talk about like what that engagement looks like. And again, this isn't for everybody, but if you've got if you have the desire to connect with more audiences, again, we're just going to review the elements here. You need strategy. You don't want to be haphazard in this. You need to know what it is that your audience is interested in. What are their pain points? Who are you? And you want to think about the whole user journey. But again, you could either come up with all of that on your own, or again, you could be a little bit more thoughtful on how that's done. And you can actually work with someone who can come up with that strategy. Guarantee these big guys, they've got someone that's kind of their job. They've got teams of people. Like Alex probably has a few ideas. Alex Ramosi, for example, probably has a few ideas to what to talk about, but he's got a team that says, all right, Alex, here are the 4 things we've researched and found that we probably should be promoting and talking about this week. Here's some bullet points. We've come up with a couple of stories and some facts and figures. And he's like, cool. And he's the talent, right? It is so much easier to podcast, to be a YouTuber, to do live streaming, to do social content for social media. If you've got some notes and some bullet points and someone telling you, this is all you have to do. You show up and I'm going to ask you the questions and you do this. And that's kind of exactly what this is. Now, one thing I want to point out is your pricing. This is no joke. This is 50% based on what you provide. This is 50% of what we were paying last year. AI has streamlined so many processes, but again, Alistair, you want to use it in a very intelligent way so that it doesn't feel generic, so that it doesn't feel like, it's got to feel like your voice. It's got to connect at a human level with people, not just regurgitated machine generated garbage. And like AI copy is good. But again, you really have to coach it very, very well so that it connects authentically with audiences. But the advantage here, and maybe you can kind of talk about what your processes are. You leverage some AI tools, so you got the best of both worlds here. But again, right now, like I said, it's like this is half of the price that we were paying last year to have a repurposing team kind of do all this for us.
Yeah. So the way that we use AI, it's all under human supervision. So there are certain things that an AI can't do. So the way we work it. So first of all, the interview process, there's no AI involved there.
Right.
The very first interview that I do, I typically have a set of preset questions that I've created over time, which will get the most effective, and that's where we got all of those clips for you from. By having those questions, I have a very strategically created list of initial questions for the first interview, and then when I'm working with people on a longer term, what we do then is we work on the positioning and the messaging and the point of view and the content pillars to create those topics and to create the next list. So typically I'll work with people for 3 months at a time. Now, with the exception being the starter pack, and we can talk about the starter pack, which is kind of like a taster. But typically I work with people at 3 months at a time. And what we'll do is we'll work on the content strategy. Particularly that first month is really important to get that nailed down. And then the rest of the content will flow from that. And like, I promise you, nobody has ever said to me, I don't have enough ideas. They might say it at the start, but we have so many potential things that you can talk about that there, now what we need to do is we need to make sure that we don't get overwhelmed by too many things. We need to sort and organize and prioritize what you need to talk about, because we need to be creating content at all points of the funnel. We need to create content at the bottom of the funnel, which people are really good at creating, the content that leads into sales. But we need to do middle and top of the funnel, which business owners are typically quite bad in my experience. They're typically bad at doing top of the funnel content, because it's a bit more kind of just awareness, and it doesn't really get into the details, and experts love to go right into the details.
Oh yeah. And it's so hard, Alistair, to, again, you gotta have that this is like what we experience with media training, right? Because again, most marketers, especially like, listen, I'm doing this because I want to make a lot of sales. Cool, but it's too early to do that, right? You need someone to say, you can't do that, right? And that's why it's so important to have someone that sticks to the strategy when your brain might want to go to, hey, I need to make sales here. It might not be the appropriate level to do that. Hey, on that note, I just want to mention this again, full disclosure, Alistair, you and I are friends. You and I do business together. To our friend watching this, I am not doing this for affiliate money. Like Alistair and I we do great work together. I love the work that he does. Alistair, if you give me money based on if someone were to find you through this video, I'm just going to donate it to charity. Like I'm good. I'm good. Like we're not doing it because Josh is trying to make affiliate money. Like we're good. I got my bills paid. I'm doing this because I know the emotional stuff that I've struggled with historically in the past, where I've just been so exhausted with feeling like I got to go run around with my phone and like shoot funny videos or something like that. Like I don't want anyone to have to worry about that anymore. So again, just wanted to throw that out there just in case you're second guessing my intention. I assure you my intentions are pure. Alistair's a good guy. Okay, back to you, sir.
Well, just on the stress and the effort that people need to go through, and like I've gone through this myself, in learning how to speak directly to a camera and record solo videos. It is really hard to record a video where you're doing what I'm doing right now and looking directly at the camera rather than Josh, who's down there on my screen. It's really hard to get to the stage where you're able to do that. But it's much more natural to get on a Zoom call and just talk to somebody about your area of expertise. And that is so much, like the effort level is so much less. And then to have somebody just take care of it for you, like this is what I do myself. I don't do the editing. And if you look at my social media channels, you'll see loads of examples of where I've done this. I've put up one of these clips every day for the last, 2 months or something. So if you can go back and see all of the clips that I've put up, and you'll see, but you'll see that on my LinkedIn and my Instagram and my YouTube and my TikTok. So, I'm on all of those channels and getting lots of views and engagement and people contacting me on all of those different channels, all from one piece of content where I sat down and talked to somebody for 30 minutes. And that's where, that's you've got a month's worth of content from 30, 40, 50 minutes. I don't know. It depends on, some people are not as good as you, Josh. You are brilliant at speaking in sound bites. You're media trained, okay? Like let me tell you, Josh is insane.
It has nothing to do with talent. It has nothing to do with like innate ability. It just has to, because I can assure you of this, because if you go back and look at my early stuff, Alistair is so bad. It's like, I'm so uncomfortable for me watching myself do that. And listen, for those of us who struggle with that, right? Because we're afraid or we're, kind of getting in our own head. Like I remember for me, like I was watching Pat Flynn or listening to his podcast. And that was, I went back and I listened to like his first like 5 episodes of Smart Passive Income. And when I heard which episode, but there was one point in the interview where you could tell he's getting frustrated with himself, and you hear him just kind of stop, and he goes, and then he kind of starts over. And he left it in, and I'm so grateful. And I told him this because we were doing some media stuff together in Orlando. I told him, I said, listen, that maybe unintentional moment, that was the thing that really gave me the confidence that I could get into podcasting. And again, if you go back and listen to like my first episodes of the Savings Angel show, it's not good. It's not great. So we've launched my influence. We've launched over 200 podcasts. So I go through this with folks a lot. As I listen, your first 10 episodes are probably not going to sound awesome to you. It's okay, right? You got to get it out of your system, and then you'll start to get more and more comfortable, and you'll realize, oh, okay, I did this thing and nothing bad happened. Okay. My biggest thing, is that I was afraid that I was going to be criticized. I don't know why. That's just my own insecurities kind of creeping in. I felt like I'm going to, especially with long form content, or I'm going to put this stuff out there. Someone's going to say something mean, and then I'm going to feel bad about myself. And that was probably one of my number one fears. Alistair, any observations from that standpoint?
Yeah, well, like I said earlier, genuinely, I do want to be an arm around the shoulder for people who are a bit afraid of this stuff. If there's somebody watching this and they're, like, I don't need an arm around the shoulder, I just need to get this done. Okay, we can do that. I can be incredibly efficient like I was with you, Josh. And I'm really, like, we created 10 or 12 clips from that. We actually probably could have got another 5 or 6 because it just like everything you spoke was a soundbite. So it was incredible. So it's possible.
That's taken some time to just.
That's taken years.
Listen, I've done this over thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of times, and so it's going like it's like me learning the bass guitar right now, right? Like I just got it like 24 days ago, and like when I first picked it up and started playing it, like I had kid fingers, man. I was like, just like making all this ridiculous noise and stuff. Now 24 days later, I feel so much more comfortable with it because I've been practicing every single day for about 30 minutes. So it's Arthur Schopenhauer that said, do the thing, have the power, not read the book and have the power, or watch somebody else and have the power. You have to do the thing. And that activity knowledge is just so powerful. Now, if you have someone guiding you and interviewing you and is going to make you look good, it's going to advise you on, oh, hey, let's adjust your lighting really quick. Oh, let's do this. Let's do that. Oh, so much better. Let's fix your mic, that sort of thing. That stuff really matters. Hey, no, you had mentioned that, Alistair. Yeah. Let me just ask you about that really quick. You've done some pretty good research, and you've had conversations with people. Quality matters big time. One thing to our friend that's watching this, you might notice, hey, those guys have good webcams. What's going on there? Do you want to talk about, like, just really quick, audio, video quality, why that stuff matters today? Listen, if you're doing sales on Zoom, pay attention. Alistair, take it away.
Okay, so you talk about the learning curve. And what I want to do is help people jump over the really bad stuff and get to where, hey, this is pretty good now, and let's just improve from here. So that's why that's part of it is about jump starting the process, and let's not start at the bottom. Let's learn from other people's mistakes, like my mistake and your mistakes, Josh, that we've made. We can help people by jumping over those. And one of those crucial mistakes is poor audio and video. Now, I interviewed a guy called Professor Norbert Schwartz from the University of Southern California. The reason I interviewed him was because he did a study along with some colleagues from Australia where they looked at audio and video quality, and they found something really interesting. They found that if your audio and video is poor, that you seem less smart, less likable, and that your work is less important. And that if your audio and video are good, you seem more likable, more smart, and that your work is more important. Now, which do you want? That's it. It's straightforward. Like, if you want to be seen as really good at what you do, if you want to come across well to people, if you want to be seen as more of an expert, then you've got to have good audio and video. And yes, like that's a no-brainer. And so I put a lot of work into that for my setup, and I hope I'm coming across well here on camera for you. And I've written a book about this. There's a free book on Amazon people can go download. If you look up, just search my name on Amazon, you'll find a free book from me about audio video setup. But it is absolutely crucial, and it's insane. Like we were talking beforehand, but anybody who's in sales, or anybody who's even doing like a remote interview or anything like that, your audio and video audio, don't make people struggle to have to figure it out to hear you, because like what did they say? I couldn't really hear that, none of that. Like you want to, you wouldn't go to an interview, wearing a dirty suit that that doesn't look good.
Exactly.
So like why would you show up on camera?
Put all that effort into all of that knowledge and the impact that you have in the world, and the outcomes that you help create. And unfortunately, to have all of that marred by a simple, easily fixable technical problem. And if you are not, a lot of times, again, we if you're not trained in this, there's a lot of stuff that you just won't realize in terms of best practice. But again, and ask any podcaster who knows their stats pretty well. If you have a guest that has bad quality audio, it doesn't matter what the topic is, people bail. It's sometimes it's very unconscious for the audience. They won't even know that, oh, this is bad audio. They may or may not think about it, but unconsciously, their brain is like, nope, I got to get out of here. It's not flowing to me. There's too much noise, that too much friction that's getting in there. Yeah, it's really important stuff. And again, Alistair, that's one of those things that you can quickly kind of flight check with somebody. Hey, I want to get, I want to kind of get to this really quick. And that is, to our friend that's watching this, test this out. And Alistair, you want to talk about this starter pack, which I love that you do?
Yeah, sure. So because I'm looking for a 3-month commitment for people, because we have to do a lot of setup, I wanted to create this simple bite-sized thing that people can just say, hey, okay, I'll check that out and see how it goes. And so that's what this is. This is an insane special offer because the price is so low. This is the lowest I could possibly make this price. I don't actually make any money on this. It's just for people to test it out. And how it works is I'll interview you on Zoom for 20 minutes. And what we'll do is we'll take that and we'll go and produce videos and write text posts and come back to you with 5 days worth of content for your social media. So we'll come back with 5 videos along with text posts, all from that 20-minute Zoom video. And that will just give you a taster of what it's like to work with me and my team and the quality of the stuff that we produce. And that's for all under $500. Just for people to test out. Yeah. And so I just want to make it accessible for people to try this and just see if it's a good fit for them.
Yeah. Hey, look, it's me. So yeah, if you want to see that, there's only a few things. So this I'm going to respond to or engage what it looks like. This kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Media invites,
cool.
Interview requests.
I know you can't. To a friend, you probably can't hear this right now. What I'm playing,
pretty much it.
But that's it. Man, if you want something that looks like this,
too busy.
That's
and
fantastic.
Every leader
it's so in vogue right now. This stuff performs so well. This gets such great engagement. The social media platforms want you to make stuff like this.
Too. Get my time. You have to do why.
That's what you do. So you'll do this in that $497 starter pack, which, by the way, like, just don't worry about the big investment. Don't worry about right now, like, unless you're, unless you know what you want, that sort of thing. But if you're kind of new or you're uncertain about this, this is wonderful, and this might be a likely outcome for you. But I would say try this, just give it a shot. I think, Alistair, you're probably going to give a lot of good advice, or they're going to be exposed to some best practices that even if they don't decide to work with you long term, it's probably they're going to gain some insights. They're going to be valuable for the rest of their business.
Yeah, absolutely. I would hope so. And like, I'm naturally, I want to help people, and I'm a coach. That's what I do. So I want to help people create great content and put great content, because I see so much rubbish on LinkedIn, on social media, and we're better than that, people. We really are. And if you're an expert at what you do and you're not demonstrating your work, you're not sharing your knowledge in public, then that's a shame, because your competitors are out there doing that. Yeah. And so here's an easy way to do it. So, like, all I want is 20 minutes of your time, and let's go and make some great content for your socials, and see if that works for you. And that's it. And look, I know that there's people out there who can't afford it or want to do it themselves, and that's fine too. There's loads, like, you can do this yourself. The really hard thing to do is talking to the camera by yourself. And so that's where the interview part comes in. And I think the interview part is like, that's an important part of my process, because I know the topics that people want to talk about. I know the right questions to ask them. And, sometimes I'll say to somebody, look, can you say this again, but, repeat the question in the answer, because sometimes people say, yeah, that's a great point. But, and then and that turns out not to be as valuable a clip, because what we want is you as an expert demonstrating your expertise in public, in a way that attracts people, because people will see you on camera, they'll hear your voice, they'll hear your point of view, they see that you know what you're talking about, that you know your area of expertise, and they'll want to work with you naturally. Like, that's how it works,
Think about this. Like, let's say that you're like a pet salon or a dentist or an attorney, or like you like lawn care, right? Like, the folks that are doing this sort of content are crushing it, because this is what audiences want today. They don't want your crappy ads. What they want is they want to connect with you human to human, and the most human company wins. If you've given me value, right? Let's say you do lawn care, for example, and you're like, let me show you, hey, we service lawns in Florida, and let me point out the three most common problems we see and how to solve those problems. Alistair, I am watching that video. And especially, again, it's like you're building this relationship with your audience, and it's trust, right? And it's like, thank you so much for leading in generosity, right? Really take a Bob Berg go-giver approach to this. Just give away your best advice, and you will earn the trust of audiences, and they won't go anywhere else, because they already have a relationship with you. You've already helped them solve problems. And so then when they need you, they are going to come to you because or they're certainly going to recommend you to others. So if you have an audience of 300, 400, 500 people, that when they think of who solves big lawn care problems, oh, well, it's Josh and Son Lawn Care Company or whatever, right? And that's what you want. If you can get to that point, it's game, set, match. That's all you have to do today in order to win. And unfortunately, a lot of other people are spending all this money on paid ads, which again has gotten a lot more expensive, and it's a lot less effective than it used to be. And I'm not saying advertising doesn't work. It's just, this is easier. And again, you're going to create good in the world. You're going to truly build an audience that just likes and appreciates you because of all of your generosity. Hey, Alistair, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I'm a big fan. Well, there's a lot of different parts of what you just said there. So I think Pat Flynn talks about know, like, and trust factor a lot. And that's, they have to know you, they have to like you, and they have to trust you. And how can you create that? Well, if they start to see you turning up in their social media, and they start to see you, and they hear your voice, and they see you, and they see that you're passionate about what you do, they see that you know what you do, then they will start to know you and like you and trust you. That's very simple.
And the social media platforms are going to reward you for this kind of content. This is what they want. They don't want people incessantly selling on their platform. They're going to, you're going to get shadow banned for stuff like that. Here, this is what social media platforms want you to do.
And I've seen this. I saw this with a client recently, where he has thousands of followers. I can't remember. I think it's like 18 or 20,000 followers on LinkedIn. And he had hired a social media company who were putting up text posts for him and some image posts. But none of his posts had any engagement. And he told me that he doesn't log into LinkedIn himself anyway. But none of his posts had any likes or comments. But he has, a year, 2 years worth of posts where he's been posting, once or twice a week. But there's no engagement on any of it because people don't care. And that's the issue, is you might be creating content that people just don't really care, that makes no connection with them. And it's about creating content. And again, I think this is where video really makes a big difference. And that's why I would urge people, if there's nothing else that you take from this, is just to experiment more with going on video. And again, it is much easier if you get somebody to interview you, because then it becomes just a conversation, and you're just recording a conversation between friends. But having that conversation, it's much easier to have a conversation with somebody on video than it is to look at a camera, and you're looking at the black lens, the black eye of the camera, and you're thinking, oh, what am I supposed to be? I'm supposed to be doing a video on top 10 what? And it's so much harder to do that. So when you do it with somebody where you're just talking to them, I genuinely, I believe in this as a process, and I would urge people to do it regardless of whether they want to work with me or do it themselves or work with somebody else. I think that you need to get on video because that's what's going to beat AI.
For the DIYers out there, are there any tools that you're kind of excited about right now?
Well, so I'm using ChatGPT several times a day, every day.
Yeah.
I'm using that. I'm not using it to generate new content. Typically, I'm using it to tidy up existing content, and I'm using it for brainstorming. And so I'll be asking it to reformat. I'll be giving it, like, for example, we could transcribe this conversation here, Josh, and I could give it the transcription. And there's other AIs like Claude, by the way, which can take in larger chunks of text and can do things with them that ChatGPT can't right now because of the kind of the token size. But you're able to say, hey, can summarize this, pull out the important points. Can you format this as a blog post? Rewrite it in a different way. Can you give me suggested titles, for example? So the title that we're using here today was a suggestion. I asked it to suggest 15 different titles, and I gave them all to you. And so that was where that came from. And so you can use it to I think it's where you're using the tools in a way to support you rather than to just generate something for you. Because if you just use it to generate something for you, it's going to be mediocre. It's going to be average, because that's what the tool does. It creates the average of all the input it's ever received. And so it depends on the way that you're using it. I think that if you're using those kind of tools, there are some other tools in terms of video editing, and there are some tools that, like we use Descript a lot, which is a really cool video editing tool, because particularly for the removing filler words part. But the other, and I just use a filler word there.
That's okay. They'll pull it out.
Yeah. But the only way to, in terms of the other tools, there are tools that will help you to create video clips. What I found with those is they're not quite there yet. And I will be the first person, by the way, to use these tools when they're working properly. They're still not great at identifying. So we still manually identify the clips. We go through transcripts, myself and my writers. I mark, because on the tool that we use, because we'll probably graduate past Zoom and start using Riverside or something like that for our edit, for our recording, because it gives you a better quality video. But we have a way to mark clips. So when somebody says something, you can mark it and say, okay, that's something that we are going to pull out as a clip. And so I'll use that to let my editor know, and let my content manager know this is a clip that we want to create. And then there are other ways you can also look at the waveforms in the audio to see where there are good things to talk about as well. But anyway, there are ways of pulling out these clips that AI is not quite at the stage where it's able to do that yet. But I think that in a year or two, it probably will be there. And at that point, then we'll be looking at using those tools when they're there. But right now, we're doing a lot of that type of work still manually. We still have a human being writing the titles based off of some suggestions that we get. We still have a human being picking the clip. I have a team of 5, including me, who work on this. So because I also have a web design agency in the background, so I have a kind of a team there and systems and processes in place already. But there's still a lot of humans need to be involved in this process. I don't think that we're going to be able to just click a button and have AI take care of all of it. Not anytime soon.
Yeah, on strategy, and again, to make sure that the work gets done as well, it's kind of like having, a workout coach or something like that, just to make sure. Like, I like that. I want that. I don't want to have to, I need someone who can come in at kind of a leadership level and just say, okay, here's what we're doing. And I'm like, great. I'm glad you're thinking about it and worrying about it, because I don't want to have to. So that's why, again, you probably, especially if you're doing okay in business, don't try to worry about this yourself. Alistair, I'll just kind of share this one last time on the screen here for folks that are interested. Again, you've kind of got a DIY version where you'll provide the expertise and the leadership, but then they'll be expected to fulfill, and you'll kind of coach them on all the right tools they should be used. You're constantly evaluating new tools, so you'll give them exactly what they need to get done. That is a bargain right there, to not have to worry about that and have someone with the muscles and the experience to always be studying best practices to come in and say, all right, here's what we need to be doing this month based on your goals, based on who your audience is, and based on what the latest and greatest technology, what the trends are in social media. To have someone who's watching all of that and I don't have to, that is a bargain and a half. But again, even if you're not ready for something like that, this is a great offer. Just try out working with Alistair and his team. If you want a bunch of great multi-purpose or repurposed content, and again, with some thought behind it, and again, most importantly, having an expert who can interview you to evoke this in a way that is going to provide what the social media platforms are looking for, so that you can get the engagement and impact that ultimately you're looking for. I put the link on the screen. Again, full disclosure, I make no money. I'm just like, Alistair's a good guy. I love your solution. I love it because I just know how much we were really struggling with, how much I personally, emotionally, psychologically was struggling with this until, we had to build it internally, most of this internally. And then you and I still kind of talk about good notes back and forth because of our relationship. So I feel like I get the best of all the worlds. But yeah, and we pay more than this, I think. But just do it this way. Anyway, I put the link on the screen, upmyinfluence.com/authority. It's not an affiliate link. Alistair's just a good guy. I'd recommend him to anybody. If nothing else, just have a conversation. And again, you may find that it might make sense to do kind of a starter pack together, so that you can, just kind of test it out. Alistair, you'll do a 20-minute interview with them. You'll produce a bunch of posts and video clips that they can upload into their social media platforms. See how it goes. Again, it's really nice to not have to kind of stress and worry about that. Alistair, man, this has been a great conversation. Any plans for the weekend?
Yeah, we've got an air show happening. I live near an airport, a small airport in the west of Ireland. And so I don't know if you guys heard any airplanes going across, but there's some airplanes arriving today and getting ready for the show on Sunday. So
wow.
So I've got my tickets booked and we'll head down there. So that'll be fun.
Do you know if that's like with armed forces of not Ireland's armed forces or Ireland Irish Air
Not
Force?
many. No, there's we have a very, very small Air Force. You could probably count them on one hand. But
boy, they're a rowdy crew.
Yeah.
fun folks to hang out with, I bet.
That's right. Yeah, no, but we do have the rescue chopper, which is based here locally. So it's the bane of my podcast, by the way, that rescue chopper. Yeah, because it's loud. It's one of those huge, like it's the size of a bus, but it's So they're down there, and that's a big part of the local community. And I live in a surfing village in the west of Ireland, so I live in the place that most people want to go on holidays, which is nice. Wow. So so I'm going to chill out, go and enjoy the air show, and have a beer.
All right. One last time, Alistair, I put your link on the screen right here. It's upmyinfluence.com/authority. And the reason I did a little shortcut link there is just so I can see. I just want to make sure I'm helping make as many connections as possible. So the only thing I'm doing is just kind of tracking the number of folks that shows, so I know what to produce content around. So if you appreciate this, just hit the link, so I know that this is valuable, and then you certainly grab a conversation, Alistair, with you. You're a good guy. You do great work, and I only recommend, again, just very thoughtful, non-bro-y, salesy, non-salesy type folks that are legitimately they're just really good at what they do, and their pricing is very fair, they're truly great, creating great value and impact for the folks that they get to work with. So I'm pretty picky. I get requests for, hey, can you do that with me? It's almost always I only work with friends I've done, you and I have worked together for many, many months. So just note to our friend that's watching this, I don't bring on randos. I don't do affiliate stiffs. normally. It's mainly like folks like, no, this is really super valuable content and very important content. In the face, Alistair, of I think a lot of bad guru advice that are just, just trying to sell this crap. You're legitimately one of the great service providers out there and thought leaders in this space. So I just want to say thank you so much for doing this. Coming up on a full 60 minutes, went a lot longer than I thought, but
awesome. Lots of content in there for us to repurpose.
Yeah, how many pieces of content do you think we can get from this? My gosh.
I could definitely get a month's worth.
Yeah, right. No kidding. All right. Well, to our friends, thank you so much for watching. Enjoy your weekend. I'm going to go grab my bass and play some grooves right now, and enjoy the air show, Alice.